The Chicago Fire. Damn. Okay, so we have the Chicago Fire that occurred in 1871. Many believe that a cow knocked over a lamp in a woman's barn who goes by the name Mrs. O'Leary.
But others thought that there was a natural act that caused the fire. They weren't very smart about the materials they used because most buildings were made of wood and or hay.
So the question is, how did the materials back then differ from the materials we use today? And was it a revolutionary turning point in history?
It's a quiet night in Chicago. Not a long silence for Mrs. O'Leary. Her cow, kicking over a lit oil lamp onto some hay, caused a fire, lighting her barn and house on fire. The flames surged and grew higher, getting caught in the wind current. No one knew at first that the fire had started because they were having too much of a good time, and the music was louder than what was burning at the time. The fire created a hot draft that allowed flames to surge across the south branch of Chicago River at Harrison Street and at Polk Street, continuing its path of destruction.
Many houses were burned with the many other wood-crafted buildings. Stores were lost. Houses were burned, and many people were devastated.
15 million people fled the city, while a few thousand died by being burnt alive. Many fled northward to Michigan, and some to Indiana. Again. Once the fire had ended, the smoldering remains were still too hot for a survey of the damage to be completed for days. Eventually, the city determined that the fire destroyed an area about 4 miles long and averaging 3/4 miles wide. It destroyed 73 miles of roads, 120 miles of sidewalk, 2,000 lampposts, 17,500 buildings, and $222 million in property, about a third of the city's valuation. Of the 300,000 inhabitants, 100,000 were left homeless. Today, there are still homeless people suffering, as you can see. Poor guy.
Many things back then in 1871 were made out of wood, such as houses, stores, beds, drawers, you name it. Even the roads weren't as good as they were today. They were made out of cobblestone or bricks. The materials we use now today are mostly metals, marble, and concrete. This is a more durable and non-flammable item that we use. The idea came from the outcome of the Chicago Fire. The water tower was the only building that survived the Chicago Fire. The reason why this building survived the Chicago Fire was because it was made out of stone, unlike all the other buildings. Today, the water tower place is used for a shopping mall where people can learn about the history and shop.
Gold. Chicago has changed in a positive way as far as the people are calmer and don't worry about the things like the Chicago Fire starting in a house again. The architecture is different, from wood to metal being used to build different buildings. Also, because of the fire, we were able to recreate a better architectural environment for Chicago. Some would say that the Chicago fire was a revolutionary event for Chicago's architecture. It also changed the mindset of people to know that they're safer, that Chicago is more prepared and more strongly built for any natural disaster. I hope.
Today, our buildings thrive in many colors and contents, such as the Apple Store, as you can see, the glass stairway, metal walls and ceilings. This is all the architecture's idea to prevent fires from happening again to such buildings as these. And for those wood buildings that we have, are out in the suburbs, such like this. Not so much wood, but it can still burn again. And since we do not have many suburbs, this house is safe.
As we get to the reason for this documentary, the turning point that the Chicago fire had was mainly the architecture. As you can see in this picture, that then most houses were made of wood and maybe some copper. Now, our houses don't look like this piece of garbage. Our houses are made of metal and concrete. This house, these wooden stairs, you throw a match right there on the grass and they'll light up. You throw a match right there today and somebody could just step on it and it's gone. We didn't went from this house
To all these luxurious buildings, many colors and many styles, such as the Sears Tower. We also reached different heights from the ones in 1871. In conclusion, our architecture from wood to metal from 1871 to 2012 has tremendously changed. And that is our documentary. This is narrated by Gabe Mills and
Merrick Jackson will come back to you. Gotcha on Channel 5.